citizens of equatorial cyberspace. This is Radio Democracy, Rhinania's last free voice, reporting live from downtown Hammerville on June the 23rd. This evening's programme will provide a selection of highlights and an analysis of the current situation in Rhinania. The most visible initiative towards peace talks was undertaken by the Organisation for Siberian Nations earlier this month, and they took place on June the 12th in Concordia. However, these peace talks were met with much scandal. OPHUG hardliners denounced the acceptance of FPA and EIFM as legitimate actors in peace talks. More alarmingly, Zaharian groups stormed out of the peace talks because of the government of Rhinania's efforts and advancements in the south while peace talks were still going on. Yet some good also came out of these peace talks, as a ceasefire between the FPA and the government of Rhinania was extended from June the 21st to July the 21st. We celebrate the extension of this peace agreement and hope that peace can be reached among all parties in the coming months. Civil society groups such as the Red Bagel Society and HRG became increasingly frustrated that they were not being included in the OCN peace talk negotiations. They thus initiated a civic table for peace that was held on June the 14th. Radio Democracy believes that this grassroots, local movement embodies hope for the Rhinanian region, as it illustrates that civil actors can address key issues through peaceful means and through communication and cooperation. The PFLZ expressed its desire to introduce a 20% tax on anyone passing an area controlled by them, including aid workers trying to pass through to deliver supplies to refugees in camps. This tax revenue was to be redistributed to Zaharians in need, especially those who were not currently in camps and who could not access aid resources. The PFLZ's desire to introduce this tax was met with fury from multiple parties, including the government and aid agencies. The government was angry that a non-government actor should be able to impose taxes, while aid agencies and international actors were frustrated that they would have to pay armed forces before being able to deliver much-needed supplies to refugees in need. Radio Democracy agrees with these concerns and is not in favour of such a tax being applied, as we here believe that it will only postpone any hope for peace and limit support in aid from international actors and donors. Also in the headlines this evening is the continuation of violations against human rights throughout Rhinania, and these violations are rapidly spreading to surrounding regions. ICRC's field staff notably shine the light on terrible atrocities that have been going on in Camp 7, including inhumane treatment of inmates, forced relocation of Zaharians, appearances of masked graves, and reports of beatings, torture, sexual violence, and summary executions. Radio Democracy strongly condemns such behaviour and calls for all actors to respect international humanitarian law and the Geneva Conventions. Also, the OPHUG has continued to harass, arrest, and possibly kill ethnic Zaharians in several districts across Rhinania. According to Reuters, the victims were mostly male and had been bound with rope and gagged with a bagel before being killed execution style. The targeting of a specific ethnic group is called ethnic cleansing, a tool used to commit genocide. OPHUG claimed that all Zaharians must be punished for the PFLZ storming out of the peace talks earlier this month. However, Radio Democracy believes that taking this out on innocent civilians is completely unacceptable, immoral, and illegal under international law. We call for President Cook and the international community to take action against these crimes against humanity. Radio Democracy is further alarmed by reports of increasing sexual violence within the camps, especially in Camp Number 4. In an exclusive interview conducted by Radio Democracy with Alana Grogan, the chief of the UN Department of Political Affairs, on how the UNHCR hope to rectify the sexual and gendered violence in camps, she explained that Camp 4 has raised its budget and allocated $5,000 towards medical and psychological care for the victims. The UNHCR plans to offer educational training to the field staff on how to combat and deal with sexual violence. The NGO CARE has also initiated a women's empowerment initiative for employment opportunities. Finally, The Ruritarian government has sent in more police forces to scan for situations and protect the innocent. We congratulate these attempts aimed at rectifying the sexual and gendered violence abuses in camps and hope to see progress very soon. Radio Democracy further congratulates international actors, especially the EU, for providing money to various NGOs across Rhinania. However, we believe that the international community should also prioritise human rights on the ground and not only through humanitarian aid, even though this is a good start. And finally, in this evening's headlines, we will be talking about the situation in Acacia that has been growing increasingly tense. At the beginning of June, transport workers launched a general strike crying against the state of the economy, the youth unemployment, corruption, and the lack of democratic accountability. Most public transports were held at a standstill. On June the 15th, strike leaders also organised mass protests in the centre of the capital in Kleptocracy Square that rapidly became very, very violent. The strikers were set upon by several hundred attackers, many of them carrying guns and knives. Following these attacks and the international outcry that they initiated, the Acadian government released a statement in which they declared that they were currently in talks with the OCHA regarding a development programme that will benefit all Acadians. And that concludes our programming. If you would like to continue to listen to Radio Democracy and support our cause, please send us donations. For a united, democratic and free Rhinania, this is Radio Democracy signing off. Thank you and have a good afternoon.